Hi everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of My FM21 Top 3, a series where I take a category in Football Manager and I give you my thoughts on the top 3 from my perspective in that category. There's no right or wrong, this is just my opinion most of the time. If you want to disagree, let me know in the comments below and tell me what you would do differently. Today we're looking at My FM21 Top 3 Best Defensive Midfield Players. So let's do it. So in at number 3 is Jordan Henderson from Liverpool. Really great player, really amazing attributes, especially in the mentals. This is what makes him such a great captain material. Some fantastic leadership and determination. So if that's the type of player you're looking for, then there is pretty much none better in this position than Jordan Henderson. The thing that goes against him slightly for me in terms of being an absolutely fantastic player, who's seen it and done it all, is that at the age of 30 is just pushing to the point where some of these physical attributes specifically might start to dip a little bit in the next couple of seasons. He's still phenomenal in every way pretty much at this point, but I just think that over the next couple of seasons as you begin to play your game, things might just start to dip a little bit. But having said that, if in any way you could get him out of Liverpool, and I'm not by any stretch saying you can get any of these players definitely out of their clubs, I'm just saying these are the best ones that I've found, then this guy absolutely does it all. You can see that he's very well rounded all the way across the board, can probably play a number of different positions. I'm looking at him as a holding midfield player. If you want to play a pivot in midfield, taking your defence into attack, then this is the sort of guy. And later on, we might discover that Liverpool are very lucky to have 2 of these players in my top 3, and they can play the double pivot and really work very, very well, working in both senses of being a defensive option and a more aggressive attacking option as well. But Jordan Henderson, there is not much you can say, really. He's won the Premier League with Liverpool recently, which is another feather in his cap. If he was fit and healthy, then he'd be a shoe-in for the England squad for the summer, although we'll have to see what his fitness is like. But in game, this guy is absolutely phenomenal. The things that he lacks are not important, really, to the role that he plays. Maybe, as I say, a little bit more acceleration just to get around the pitch a bit more, and those are going to slightly slip away. But look at these attributes. For somebody in a holding midfield role of 19 determination, 19 leadership, 18 teamwork, 18 work rate, 18 stamina. This guy is absolutely phenomenal and just about makes it into my top 3. A little bit unlucky maybe from your perspective not to be higher. Some may even have him in first place. But there we go. Jordan Henderson, my 3rd place defensive midfielder. So in at number 2 on my list is Rodrigo Benitez, currently playing in Juventus in Italy. An Argentinian international, 29 caps for Argentina, which is pretty phenomenal. Half the value of pretty much everybody else on my top 3. And that's one of the reasons why he's in at number 2. Great value for money if you can get him out of the squad he's currently playing in, and also about half the wages as well. He can play, like most of these players, in the central midfield role or the defensive midfield role, and can do both very, very well. I'm playing him in the defensive midfield role because I think consistently over the deep-lying playmaker role specifically, this guy is very, very decent. And you can see that he's got some similarities to Jordan Henderson. The one thing that he really lacks more than anything else is leadership. And that can be a little bit key for that kind of central hub kind of player. But this guy hasn't quite got that. But at 23 years old, to have 15 passing, 15 tackling, teamwork, work rate, vision, stamina, all of that are 15 or above. You can see that he's got 17 in determination, and a lot of good physicals that are only going to pretty much stay where they are or get slightly better over the next couple of seasons. So I think this guy, whilst may not quite reach the heights in a couple of key specific attributes compared to Henderson, with the fact that he's half the value, half the wages, and pretty much half the age in terms of a professional footballer's career, then I think that, for me, propels Bentancur up into second spot. And so he makes the number 2 spot on my list. So I've got 2 honourable mentions for you. One that's very well known to the Football Manager community, to be honest. I think you'll all have had him at one point or another probably in your series. And the other one, this guy, Guido Pizarro, a little bit more obscure maybe. The reason I've put him in is several reasons really. One, the valuation of the player is very low. His wages are decent in terms of being able to afford them. And he's not really been over in Europe very much. He's spent a little bit of time, 24 matches played for Sevilla in Spain. Other than that, he's been in Mexico and Argentina all of his career. So if you're managing out in South America and you want an experienced player to come in and do the job for you, then Guido Pizarro is a really good option. You can see all the key attributes for that deep-lying playmaker role. You'd like a little bit more passing in there maybe, but consistently over the course of his attributes, he works very, very well in that role. And is that, as I say, a little bit more of an obscure player? What would be your obscure player to pluck out of a team that you've played at in the starting seasons of Football Manager? Where would you go for something slightly out of the ordinary that nobody really talks about? I know this guy is not a world beater, but just as something slightly different, I think maybe you could have a look at Guido Pizarro out in those South American countries and get yourself a very, very good holding midfield player. So the slightly better known honourable mention goes to Sandro Tonali, currently playing on loan at Milan. Now he's got a fee to join Milan at the end of the season if they take him up on that particular offer, which they probably will, let's face it. So he might be difficult to get, but an honourable mention nonetheless, because at 10 million and at 65 grand a week, playing in one of the big clubs in Europe, there is some wriggle room there if he goes back to Brescia and Milan don't take up that option, for example, or you decide to play as Milan and take up that option. I think it's about a 13 point something million transfer fee that's been agreed if Milan want to take it. So that is one of the reasons why he's on my honourable mentions list, because we all know at 20 years old, this guy can turn into a world beater. Absolutely, he really, really can, and has been doing so for the last couple of seasons. He's also a bit of a favourite on Football Manager because of those last couple of seasons where he's been a bit of a wonder kid. But as I say, he's obviously at a club, Brescia, at the moment, that if you nip in early, maybe you can buy him from under Milan, possibly. You can also get him for a reasonable price and a reasonable wages. And there's some good attributes in here. Now, he's not the most well-rounded person on this list at the moment, but as I say, there's some room for improvement. But if you want a deep-lying playmaker, he's got 15 passing, 15 vision, 15 work rate. The physical attributes are a little bit lower compared to some, but look at what Paul Scholes did for Manchester United late in his career. He just sat and was that quarterback basically for Man United at an age where he wasn't running around an awful lot. And maybe this is the sort of player that you'd get in Tonali as the game moves forward a little bit and some of these other attributes develop just a little bit as he moves on. So as I say, he's currently on loan. You won't get him first season. Can you nick him from Milan during that season and put in an offer which Brescia can't refuse? Maybe. But all round, I think we all know that Tonali can be a pretty amazing player given the right opportunities. So for Sandro Tonali, second one of my honourable mentions. In at number 1, and I think this might be a first for my top 3 list. I can't actually remember if I'm totally honest, but we have a tie. 2 guys at the top of the list that I just could not separate really at at all. And we have Fabinho from Liverpool and Casemiro from Real Madrid. 26 years old for Fabinho, 28 for Casemiro from Real Madrid. And both have got plenty of more time to play, and both are pretty much top of their game as the holding midfield player, that pivot role in central midfield. And as I said earlier, if you pair Fabinho with Jordan Henderson, that double pivot role is pretty spectacular to play, I would imagine, for Liverpool. So why is it that I can't separate these two? Well, you can see immediately that their ages are about the same. They're both rated at £55 million in valuation. They're both 120 grand a week for Fabinho, 195 for Casemiro. So they're getting hefty wage sums. They're both regular starters in their particular current clubs, which means that there might be a little bit of niggle room for one of the other big clubs to come in for them and treat them as more of an important player, possibly. But let's go through and have a look at their attributes. Immediately, you can see on the wheel that they are very, very similar, hence why I struggled to separate them. If we go and look in more detail at the attributes, you can see that on a couple of occasions, Casemiro does have the slight edge. You can see in the average for the technical attributes, he's got 1 point more to his name than Fabinho has. And similarly, in the mentals, but I think consistently across all of the attributes, both are exceptional players. They really are. If we look at the key attributes for the role that we're looking at, so it's things like a decent level of passing, which is at 15, decent level of tackling, which is 16 and 15 in favour of Fabinho. In terms of the teamwork, the vision, the work rate, the vision may be a little bit low in that whole sort of deep line playmaker role, but maybe as a ball-winning midfielder, you can't get much better than these two just to destroy the attacks of the opposition. But look at these work rates. I mean, 16 and 16 for Fabinho for teamwork and work rate is exceptionally good. But then you look at Casemiro at 17 and 19, which is pretty phenomenal, isn't it, really? Leadership, Casemiro has it a little bit. Fabinho, not quite so much, but both good on determination. But where Fabinho takes it a little bit, I think, is in these physicals. Now, he might not have a couple of the sort of 19s that in stamina that Casemiro has particularly, but his stamina is no problem at all. But consistently, 14 or above all the way down the physicals is very, very good. You can see that the physicals for Casemiro, whilst hitting the height a couple of times, does have a couple of slightly lower ratings there, especially in that pace and getting around and just providing some extra defensive cover. So there are one or two areas that both of them could improve a little bit, but it's only nitpicky. If you want a holding midfield player for your top level side, the best that I can find is either one of these two. Now, which one would you choose? Would you have any of these in different positions? Would you have Henderson higher than the lot of them? He's got the attributes in certain areas to do that, definitely. For me, as I said, I think his age just pushes him slightly down in his physicals that might get slightly worse over the following couple of seasons. But yeah, which of these two, Fabinho or Casemiro, would you choose to put in your starting lineup if you could have any of them to put in there? Which one would you go for? I think if I absolutely had to, I might just edge towards Casemiro, maybe, but it's very, very narrow. So yeah, there you go. Fabinho, Casemiro, can't separate them myself really. And so they share top spot in my FM21 top 3 defensive midfielders. So what about your list? Does it look the same as mine? Is it completely different? Have I missed an obvious person out? Is there somebody that maybe is a little bit of an unknown that you really love to play in that role? Let me know about that in the comments below. Thank you for joining me for today's episode, though. I hope you're finding these interesting. I like putting these together. They're a lot of fun. So, yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and join my United City community. The more the merrier. Click that like button on this particular episode. That'll help me get seen by lots more people. Until next time, though, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.